early on in the year, we were thinking about all the different things our members were telling us. Like, people want help on their resumes, people want access to recruiters, people want to get inspired and have access to top leaders in the Bay Area that were Asian American. A lot of the women wanted to hear from women. And so all those ideas kind of came together, and instead of putting on a year-long kind of program, we decided to combine it in one supersized day, which culminated in this event. So we're really, really interested in hearing your feedback. So like your feedback forms, and if you guys aren't NAAP members, go visit our NAAP booth and give us some feedback and learn a little bit about our organization. We're always looking for new members and also for people to help us put on great programs and events like this. How many people have heard of NAAP prior to today? And who's new? Who's like kind of new? Like, what is this NAAP thing? Okay, that's good. So I don't have to sell you guys too hard. So welcome to the other session, because in the other room over here is where all the big CEOs, CIOs, CTOs are hanging out. But I'm glad you guys came here because I'm going to give you a bunch of secrets that they aren't telling in the other room. Around presentations. This was kind of one big thing that our members have asked for, just practical skills that they can immediately apply, maybe even on Monday when you guys head back to work. So a little bit about who I am. I live in San Francisco, actually just lived a few blocks away. I'm a Bay Area native, but I went to school in LA. So the majority of my adult years were spent in Los Angeles for undergrad and for grad school at UCLA. And then I came back up here in 2006 officially after getting my MBA to work for Salesforce. So you guys probably saw me on stage introducing a team this morning with the keynote speakers. So I was at Salesforce for a number of years. Amazing kind of experience there, but I got the itch, kind of similar to Team. Decided to ride the edge, take a risk, and start my own company. So about a year ago, I started a company called Social Pandas. So it's an enterprise software company to help salespeople find and close deals faster using the power of social. So if you guys are interested in any of that, we're hiring. So we'd love to talk to you if you guys have an engineering or user experience background. And then I travel a lot, eat, take a lot of photos. That's kind of like what I like to do in my free time. And as a kind of a segue to that, a lot of people wonder about what does it take to make a great presentation. And it starts with the understanding that humans like things that are visual, right? Versus hearing things, versus tasting things. One of the most dominant of your senses is your eyes and your sight. We absorb so much more and we learn so much more when you see things. And that's kind of the primary way, at least we as humans, experience the world. And this is not new, right? This has been in existence for millennia. You look at kind of the caveman drawings that date back to a lot of societies that aren't on the earth anymore. They express their stories, they express their opinions, they express their history through visual artifacts. And no different today, right? So the way we communicate as a society, the way we try to convey ideas to one another, most of the time is visual. Right? That's why TV replaces the radio. That's why a lot of you, I know, probably spend time looking at photos as opposed to just looking at text. Those are the things that entertain us and captivate us the most. So why is it so hard to create a presentation then? Right? The kind of the big kind of struggle that a lot of people have struggled with, both at the workplace and even at nonprofits like NAAAP. We consume information visually, but yet why is it such a struggle to communicate visually? And there's a really, really interesting kind of funny quote from the team, the software guys that built PowerPoint, when they realized they'd created this monster of a tool that has been abused by many, many companies and paralyzed many corporations. This is a really funny quote, right? The best way to paralyze an opposition army is just give them a copy of PowerPoint, because forever they will be building slides, confusing each other, not coming to consensus, not being able to get their ideas on paper. And so why is that? And I really came to kind of this initial understanding of, even though we like to consume things visually, we immediately like to communicate verbally. Would you rather spend an hour on the phone with someone or an hour giving them a PowerPoint presentation? Right, that's the mode of communication. You always reach for your phone, and that's how you connect with people. because from birth, we are trained to communicate verbally. Right? Babies aren't born learning how to do slides and presentations. They know how to cry, and they know how to audibly, verbally communicate with their parents. And the funny drawing on the right is one of the, who's been to Thailand and have seen kind of these elephants trained to do paintings. It's almost the same as humans, right? Training an elephant to draw is almost sometimes as hard as training a human to do PowerPoint. And so hopefully I can provide you guys some shortcuts today on not being that elephant, but being a more effective communicator. And the interesting thing is, it's got nothing to do with your intelligence, right? So I'll give you a couple interesting examples. This guy is probably, came out of Harvard, probably college educated, yet he's building slides like this. He works for the US government, right? So these are people in power, people in position, and that's how they build slides. You can barely read what's on that slide, and a lot of the content is kind of meaningless, except that the guy's photos on it, which is also a bad thing. Another example. So this is a slide probably created by someone with a PhD in genomics. And this is a slide lifted from a kind of a trade conference where a lot of PhDs gathered. And what can you gather from that slide? It's not immediately obvious what I'm supposed to take away from it. And so this dispels the myth that you have to have an IQ of 200 to communicate really well visually. In fact, the best storytellers aren't the smartest people in the room. They're just the people that know how to captivate and understand how to communicate with people. And so why do presentations matter? Obviously, people came to this session for a reason, and I wanted to kind of hopefully expand your thinking. It's not just about doing a slide deck for your weekly meeting at the office. There's enormous ways to communicate visually through a presentation format that have nothing to do with workbooks, right? So entertaining people, educating people, motivating your team, maybe motivating your nonprofit, traditional things like marketing and selling, obviously. But at the heart of this is the idea that you take an opinion, you take a piece of information, and you're trying to drive action. Right? That's kind of the most important thing to remember about giving a presentation. What is your audience going to do when they get out of their chairs and walk out? Are they going to remember you as being a funny guy? Are they going to remember you as campaigning for a certain cause? Are you going to vote for that person? Maybe it's like a stump speech by a political candidate. Maybe it's the CEO of a company trying to motivate the sales team to go out and sell and do better. Infinite number of possibilities of what drives action. And as long as you remember that as kind of the core goal of why you're giving a presentation, hopefully that will put you in the right step, in the right direction. And so most importantly, so if you came here expecting me to teach you how to use PowerPoint, you're going to be disappointed. Because in fact, PowerPoint is actually not my most favorite way to communicate visually. I actually do really well with 3 colored markers and a dry erase board. That's kind of my preferred way to communicate, especially in meetings with small teams. So today's session is not a PowerPoint tutorial. I'm not going to teach you how to use Keynote or PowerPoint or any of the other kind of software tools out there. But instead, it's going to be taking a step back. And so we'll cover 4 big sections today, and think about it as 4 chapters of today's session. The first is just the most important thing about a presentation is understanding who's sitting on the other side of the table, who's sitting in the seats listening, and investing their time in hopefully communicating with you. So knowing your audience. And then we'll step through a few other foundational elements around designing the message that you deliver to your audience, how do you package that message up visually, and then finally the delivery of that message. Everyone focuses on, well, we'll just hack together a bunch of slides, and then I just really want to focus on the speech, the rehearsal, but that's actually step 4. If you don't accomplish steps 1, 2, and 3, then it doesn't matter how great you are. The worst slides on the screen, the worst understanding of your audience is going to cripple you when it comes time to do delivery. So we'll save that towards the end. And I see a lot of you guys scribbling down a lot of notes. I'll make these slides available to you, and I'll just shoot me an email and I'll put it on Dropbox and you guys can all download the slides. Don't feel like you have to copy everything. There's nothing secret about today's presentation. So chapter 1, persona design. And when I say persona, it just means the type of people that are in the audience and understanding who's in the audience before you present. So it could be a number of things, right? It could be an internal presentation that you give in your office. Maybe you're giving it to just employees, maybe specific types of employees, maybe higher ups, CEO, the managers, the VPs. Maybe you're reporting to a board. So for my startup, I'm on the board of directors, and I've got investors that are on the board. It's a very specific audience and dictates a certain way I communicate with them. Maybe it's a partner. Maybe it's someone who is not necessarily in your company, but a company you collaborate with. Maybe it's a vendor, someone who sells you something so it helps you run your business and generate growth for your business. And then also the external audiences, right? Customer is probably the most traditional if you're in sales. You're pitching to a customer. And there's a lot of other external audiences too, right? So analysts, there might be third-party influencers in your industry that might write a good blog or a good product review about your company, maybe a journalist like Walt Mossberg. Who knows who Walt Mossberg is? Few hands with an iPhone raised, very specific. So Walt Mossberg is actually probably one of the most influential technology journalists, writes for the Wall Street Journal, and he has the power to sync any technology product. So if he writes a bad review about your product, then it's usually a very bad sign for your company and for your product. So influencing those type of people. And then community too, so it doesn't have to be corporate. It could be constituents in your nonprofit, it could be people at church, it could be people on a sports team.